Kellen. Two of the three of us were going to have seen this film by tonight, but it is just you.
It is just you.
So
Okay.
I'm relying on your review of this to help me decide if I want to see it.
Oh, no pressure, Kellen. I believe I've stated that I'm going to end up seeing this, but I have to go back and watch the first two films again because I haven't seen 28 Weeks Later and I haven't seen 28 Days Later in a very long time.
Because you just mentioned it. I rewatched 28 Days Later a few nights ago.
I watched it two nights ago.
So I've got it on Blu-ray, which doesn't matter because it's shot on
It looks like garbage. Yeah.
a dumb little DV camera or whatever it was. That movie still holds up, dude. It's so good. And like the I don't know, the crappiness of the footage lends to everything about it. I think if it, like, part of me when you're watching it, you're going like, man, I wish this was shot in 4K, or like, I wish this was, on film so it could be continually remastered and made better. But then you're like, but I kind of don't want that also. Like the grunginess of it is part of why it's so good.
I also watched it 2 days ago because I went to see this third one with my girlfriend who hadn't seen the first two. And I was like, I said, the story is so disjointed, like it's not even going to be the same characters. You don't need to worry about it. You just need to know where it takes place. And guess what? The title of the movie tells you that. So she wanted to go back and watch the original two, or the first two, I should say. And so I rewatched it. I used to watch this. This was like, you guys know me, I don't buy a lot of DVDs, but like 28 Days Later, I still have a DVD in my like little narrow sleeve of movies. This is one that I like ran out. Like
you're the one that made me watch these two movies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense because I
still remember it was sophomore year and I was like, I haven't seen them. And you were like, we're watching both right now. And I still remember like you prefaced 28 Weeks with people hate this, but I love it. And it's got a great opening sequence. And I was like, great. And I still remember it. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, that would make sense because I think that second one was like 2007.
Yes.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, 07.
Yeah, Jeremy Renner hadn't become big, but he was coming up.
Yep.
But back to the first one, I agree with you, Dustin. Like I was watching it and I did have to explain, like Becca, she's in film, so she knew there was like a filming difference or whatever. And she's like, is this movie older than I thought it was? And I was like, well, and I explained to her like that unique window of time where people were overly ambitious about the use of digital. Yeah. In this case, probably for budget reasons, but other times it's just like adopting the new thing. And there's this window where everybody didn't realize how bad of an idea what that was.
Yep.
And how
people didn't realize how to light a set with digital photography was different. And
also just the inherent resolution cap. Like, I was explaining that like they can never remaster this the way that you can film stock.
Yep.
And like nowadays, obviously like we are getting more and more pixels per inch in our resolutions, but like I truly don't think that we're going to look back on now's technology and be like, oh, why'd they film on this? Like, I think we're good. But anyway, but I think this movie of all movies, like this works for that because of the genre that it's in. I bet you horror films that were filmed like this, like the aesthetic, like works in a way that you don't really expect. Like it wasn't intentional. Nobody shot this and was like, it's going to look creepy in 20 years when this technology is outdated.
Yep.
But it's fun. My rewatch this time around, like I remember all the beats, all the needle drops and stuff. Like one of my favorite bands, Granddaddy, has a song in the middle of the movie they use for the grocery store sweep. The supermarket sweep or whatever they do.
Mm-hmm.
But what I did notice is that like it's clunkier, like in its characters. Things are a little silly. Like I've played enough zombie games now to know that like messages written in large letters on walls in blood are kind of ridiculous and don't feel diegetic the way that like they seemed when they first started doing that, in the for post-apocalyptic stuff in the time. And just
I have a theory about that, but keep going.
Okay. Well, and there's little things like that, like the message from his parents was so succinct that you could read it in the like 2-3 seconds you get to see the frame. And then like, that's really what they wrote. Like, don't wait. Yeah. I don't know. It just seemed a little cheesy. And my girlfriend's an actor. And so she was like dissecting like Selena, the female leads, acting. She was like, she's terrible. And but she said like Cillian Murphy. She was like, he's great. Like I hadn't seen a movie this old of his before, but he's already pretty great. And then she's like hated Selena. So it was a rocky watch. She got creeped out. The zombie in the window that part that happens towards the end, like that really got her. She like thrust her head back into me. Anyway, so first one, classic, one of my favorite zombie movies, one of my favorite probably horror films. It's less scary every time I watch it, which I think is to be expected.
Yeah, I agree. I wasn't creeped out by it this time, and granted, I've seen it a few times, so there's that. But what I think kind of shocked me this time, and it goes a little bit with what you were saying, is this movie, I think it obviously reinvigorated the zombie movie like craze. And when 28 Days Later came out, it was like less than a year later that The Walking Dead published its first issue. And so there's obviously been a bunch of, like back and forth about the fact that both of those, that Rick Grimes and Cillian Murphy both wake up in a hospital room having survived the whole thing and like have to now get their bearings. Like that's sure, like everybody talks about that. But what I was realizing, it goes along with like big messages written in blood and all these kind of things, is like, I think most of that stems from here. Like there were things probably before that, like I'm not as well versed in the zombie world as others, but like surely this isn't the first time that was done, but this reinvigorated this wave of it. And then after that, like The Walking Dead came on and like beat it like a dead horse for so long that all of that to me now starts to feel really like trite and really cliche. But I had to continually remind myself, this is what did it first. This isn't cliche. This was building the thing that then everybody copied.
The John Carter effect.
Yeah, the John Carter effect.
I would argue that everybody was also ingesting hours and hours of like Left 4 Dead.
Yeah, totally.
And, video games did it to death. But I also think that like it's kind of a problem of the zombie genre. Like I do think that Danny Boyle and Garland were doing their due diligence to like reinvigorate the genre by doing something that wasn't like trudging zombies. It was like, no, biological warfare. So I give them a lot of credit.
Not undead. Yeah.
I give them a lot of credit for it. But like the zombie genre, if you want to call it that as a thing, is just one of its biggest problems is how self-referential it is. Yeah. It's almost like everybody goes, whatever other zombie movies did is basically now in the zombie scape. Like that's now there for us to pilfer. So like there's certain movies you can go back and like pin, like that's the film that like, was it like you got to remove their head or something like that. And like it all spun, from that. But anyway, I really appreciated 28 Days Later at the time because like it really did like spook me. I wasn't really like an aware enough person to think of like directing and shooting style and stuff. But even at the time I was like, these are really crazy Dutch angles if I knew the term. But like, I don't think there's a single one. There probably is, but there's very few straight, like parallel, like leveled shots in the film.
And it's really claustrophobic and shaky, which heightens that sense of like uneasy, disoriented kind of feeling that you get. Just like Cillian Murphy gets. Yeah, totally.
There's a lot of like, I don't really like the lighting all that much in the film. I was on rewatch this time around. Like there's like the floodlights that they use for like side and soft light, or not soft. It's actually pretty strong, but like I'm not such a film set guy. So you guys would have to correct me. But like the secondary light source that's further away, but that it's brighter and it carves.
A fill light.
Okay, and it like carves their silhouette out of the background. Yeah, like there's a lot of that.
Or a rim light, yeah.
Towards the end of the movie, like there's floodlights for the military encampment where they're at, and that makes sense there. But like the rest of the film is just full of it, and I just found it really kind of cheesy and distracting. Sure. So, and that's also because like I was watching it with someone that I told about like, how rough and like raw this take on it was. And watching it, I was like, it's a bit cheesier than I remember. Like both in its execution and also some of its like really simplistic storytelling.
I was the biggest takeaway I had that I didn't remember was the younger girl character. I can't remember her name.
Oh, she's terrible.
She are all of her lines ADR. They all feel so out of place. I'm like, either she's just really bad or she's really bad at ADR, and I don't know which it is.
Honestly, I couldn't tell. I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about because it gives that vibe, but I think it's just that she's so monotone that you can't imagine someone on set being that bad. So you think it's just somebody bored doing it in a booth later.
And I started thinking, like, is it because like Danny Boyle's told her like, okay, in this climax, you're high as a kite.
On Valium,
like you're on Valium. You're just totally out of it. So then her interpretation of that was just to talk like this for everything.
But no, earlier in the film,
exactly. She's
basically
throughout.
the same.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we probably got to power through these. I've seen 28 Weeks Later fewer times than 28 Days Later, but I bet you I have watched the opening sequence of that film more than 28 Days. Like, I think the opening, I think it's like 10 or 15 minutes or something of this film is like the best zombie choreographed sequence like I've ever seen. And also like the characters are really interesting and obviously they don't pan out, but like, I don't know. I went into this film. I remember knowing that the writer director team wasn't involved on the production besides producing. And it felt, I guess at the time, 4 years or whatever, felt too quick to put another one out. I don't know. I just remember being like, yeah, they're cashing in on this one. And like going to the theater, I even remember feeling like it might have been a borderline like going to a DVD movie. I don't know. I remember just being really pessimistic about it going into it.
Sure.
And I don't care that the rest of the movie isn't that great and is a little bit more boring, I think, than 28 Days Later. But the like opening sequence makes up for it because I think it's fantastic. And so that's the thing I'm excited for my girlfriend to watch. But I also could be talking it up and then I rewatch it and it's cheesier than I remember. But I feel like I watched it like within the last 5 years for sure.
I'm going to rewatch it in the next few days.
It's fun. It's really weird to see Rose Byrne doing an American accent in a film that takes place in London. You're like, does not compute that you're not speaking with your voice in your native country. But
Idris Elba is in this too.
Yeah, I was going to say it was like a triad of actors that were not quite big enough yet to pull the box office numbers. So they were in a film like this and they all do a fine job. I mean, Idris Elba, his character is paper thin, but I just still think he was like compelling to watch. Jeremy Renner's really charming in this film, I would say. Connor, you haven't seen this ever?
No.
Okay, I won't spoil anything. But it ends in a way that suggests this is my segue, I guess, off the cuff. It ends with the suggestion that the infection left the British Isle and made it to Paris. Like, it's not really a spoiler, Connor, because it's not consequential to the climax of the film, but like the end of the second movie ends with like zombies running down the plaza towards the Eiffel Tower.
Gotcha.
And so
in my mind's eye, that's a really bad comped shot. Is that true?
I mean, it had to have been, early After Effects-y kind of like keying and stuff like that. I'm sure it wasn't great looking, but I haven't seen it,
I need to rewatch it because in my mind's eye, it's just like really bad. It's like, you remember in like the old Looney Tunes cartoons when like a silhouette of a man would like stand up in front of the screen and be like, hey, get out of there. Whatever. It's like an audience member that's standing up in front of you. It's like in my brain, that's what that feels like, is like zombies in silhouette, poorly comped against the Eiffel Tower.
No, I don't think it was that bad.
Okay, maybe not.
But there were elements of the film that made it feel cheaper, and it was being more ambitious, being overly ambitious with its like set pieces and stuff like that. They definitely have some shots with like military vehicles and stuff that are pretty fake CGI. What's his name? Michael from Lost. What's that actor's name?
Harold Perrineau.
Harold Perrineau.
There you go.
He plays a character in this, and he's flying a helicopter. And there's like a sequence that, like, if I explain it to you, sorry, he's flying
He is a helicopter.
It's like, wow, give that man an Oscar.
He's so convincing. Anyway, he's flying a helicopter that, like, the sequence is really interesting to be described, but when you see it, it's that 2007 overly confident in their CG stuff. Going into this one, like, I had not paid attention to any of the stuff. I remember in passing, I saw something about how they were doing a double film, and I completely forgot about it until the end of this film. So the whole time I was like, I think if I had gone into it knowing that they were building out a trilogy, now I've gone and researched it.
Yep.
My approach to the story would have been different. I don't mind. Do you guys want like a spoiler conversation?
I don't.
Okay.
You don't?
Well, I mean, I'm fine with it, but I mean, if you're on the fence, I don't know.
Okay, I'll try to keep it as spoiler free as I can. And the easy thing about that is there's no continuing story to, like, oh, that's what happened to that guy. Like, there is none of that. So, and that's what I appreciated about this, because like it feels like an anthology opportunity.
Yeah.
To play with the same rules of world and world building with a different kind of like roster of characters or something.
7, 6, 11, 5, 9 and 20 miles today, 4, 11, 17, 32 the day before. Boot, 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 moving up and down again. There's no discharge in the war. Don't look at what's in front of you. Boot, 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 moving up and down again. Men go mad with watching them. There's no discharge in the war. If your eyes drop, they will get the top of you. Boot, 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 moving up and down again. There's no discharge in the war. Try to think of something different. Oh, my God, me from going lunatic. Moving up and down again. There's no discharge in the war.
So I didn't mind that this one, some of my gripes about the second one was being overly ambitious, not having the funds to really like do a big military action kind of thing. And so this one is way smaller, like super smaller. But what I wasn't expecting is that like the infection is very different in this film. It's almost like it's about like, the successive waves of, evolution of this virus or something like that, because some of the problems that were around in the prior films, like a plot point in the second film really revolves around how like the zombies literally are like humans and they can starve if, what is it? Humans, if you like a week of no food, it leads to something. There's like a decay rate or something. And like they're susceptible to the same thing. So like in 28 weeks, the reason why they were able to get control of it in London was because they were starving. Like there were enough people that had already been infected that and everybody was, effectively in hiding and they were starving. So 28 years later, if that was to continue happening, you would think it would kill itself off. But like what has happened now, apparently, and this is just setup stuff, it's not spoilers, is that a title card just kind of goes, oh, the virus was pushed back away from Europe and it's just back on the UK again. And I was like, oh, okay. And the story is, it's almost kind of like an Isla Nublar or whatever the original island
Nublar,
was.
I think.
Is Nublar?
Yeah, I think so.
Or Cerna.
And Sorna was Site B.
Anyway, it's almost like, well, what would happen if this was all just bottled up and you came back to it later? And so like it takes place with like this village that lives off the coast on an island with a causeway that's only available to cross during low tides. And so that means they only have to like fortify one side of their island, but also like the infected are a lot more sparse, and they like live like wild animals now. And without getting into too many spoilers, like they're eating a lot more animals. Their rage seems more just like wildness, and they're smarter, kind of, generally, I think. So they don't call it like rage the way that they did in the first movie. I don't even know if they did in the second one, but I don't know. I just really wasn't expecting them to like change it so much. They do some interesting things with it, but overall, what I think it leads to is like a less scary, more adventure vibe. It is violent. There's a lot of, violent gore and stuff like that, but it doesn't feel like a horror movie because its story beats don't feel like setups for violence and fright and scare and stuff like that. It feels a lot more like not a hero's journey, but you're basically following one or two characters as they like traverse from place to place with a goal in mind. And it's not novel. I mean, the second movie has them trying to get to an evac zone or something like that. But overall, it was interesting. I don't quite know why I don't feel like it's a huge recommend. Is that like there are some elements of it at the very end, without getting into story stuff like that, really was a strange whiplash. I wasn't ready for it to be like a setup for something bigger. And so therefore, when I was watching it, I just thought it felt really small and didn't like explore the things that I found as interesting about the prior two films. It's obviously indicating that it's going to open up wider. It's not spoilers. They've publicly said that Cillian Murphy is in the next one.
Yeah.
I don't care. I like him, so I'll gladly watch it. But I don't care about his character. Like,
yeah, it could be an anthology, and I'd be okay with that too.
Yeah, and there's nothing like prestigious about bringing him back. There's no reason to do it. So, like, I really wanted these characters in this film to really kind of like live up to what they had to do with this one film. And I just thought it was okay. The kid actor is good. I don't know his name off the top of my head. I don't know what it is about Aaron Taylor Johnson. I'm just not a fan. Like, I don't like watching him, and I feel bad because I can't really pinpoint it. Like, but he does a fine job. He's kind of a piece of shit, you find out, and I guess that helped that I didn't really like him in the first place. Everybody's okay. It's almost like the sum of its parts doesn't make sense to me why it didn't come out better. And I think it has to do with like, I would have liked more scare. Like, it's more creepy and weird. There were parts that, like, I know it's nothing like Annihilation, but there were parts in that movie that felt like, you kind of felt drunk for a second while watching it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's a little bit of that in this. And there's a little bit of overly ambitious CGI with some wild animal stuff. Overall, I'm glad that I didn't pay attention to its production a lot because I didn't really have huge expectations. It was more along the lines of like, I've been watching Alex Garland's films lately and not being so let down by them, but just wondering where the sauce went. I really, really love Annihilation. Like, Civil War was creepy, uncomfortable, unsettling. It was really pretty cool with some of the action choreography and stuff that it did. I honestly just set that up to like just being in poor taste. It made me sick to my stomach just about the world while watching it.
Yeah.
It's not really what I want from my entertainment. And I don't know. Some of it was a little like, you can tell that a foreigner wrote this film about Americans.
Yeah.
There's nuance that it didn't really have. But so like, I've been kind of cooling on him. And what was the most recent thing he? Oh, there's just something about a project he was taking.
Civil War is the most recent thing I saw.
Okay. He has been doing a lot more like writing as well.
Warfare.
He wrote that with that vet that.
Yeah.
And I've been meaning to watch that. So like, I don't know why, but like, I just kind of
Men as well. You said you were kind of meh on Men.
I liked Men. It's a weird movie and it's not for everybody.
Yes, it is.
It's really hard to like I was scrolling through and my girlfriend was like, "Oh, is that any good?" And I was like, "I think it would terrify you, but like in a ways that you don't really want. You don't want a man. Well, you don't want to see a man's depiction of being an ally to women who are sexualized and feel like under duress of sexual assault. Like it I don't know how to. That was a really weird sentence, but Connor, did you follow that?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about the ending, and
I don't see any woman wanting to watch that. Like,
it won't make you feel better at all.
No, it creeps. It's creepy, but it's also creepier to have like a dude tell you what he thinks you're afraid of, and like, I don't know.
Let me mansplain sexual assault to you.
So it's this really weird thing where I'm like, I think Alex Garland is becoming my guy I like to nitpick because I know he's good. So therefore I'll focus my attention on him because there's so much trash that I'm never going to, give a critique.
Yeah.
It's almost like, I think you can do better.
Yeah. Like you're better than this. I've seen you do better.
I would be distraught if he ever heard me say this in any kind of capacity. Please don't take this personally. I love you.
We're going to send this to his representation.
Oh no. But anyway, so the Danny Boyle tag team up this time around. I don't know. I don't think it was a terribly compellingly shot film. There's some of that flavor from the original, but you can tell that it's been I think it was effectively Hollywoodified. I think I even said that as I was leaving the theater. Again, I love that second movie's intro so much that the intro to this one feeling like a really like vanilla, like Diet Coke version of that, like almost all the beats. Not really, but like it's way short, way less compelling, and it's a retread in a lesser way. And I was like, this is how you're going to start your movie? Damn. I was really let down in the first 5 minutes. And I think the story itself won me back from a relatively unrelated intro is the way I'll put it.
So I was eager to see this film. And then a couple things happened. One, I rewatched 28 Days Later. Two, I watched the trailer for 28 Years. And side by side, I realized this probably wasn't going to give me the fix I wanted. And so that's not necessarily the only reason I didn't see it. But that was a reason. So for me, I think what I've realized, and I do want to rewatch 28 Weeks because I own it. I haven't seen it in a while. But what I realized is I think 28 Days Later works best as a standalone. This is like a product of its time kind of movie, because not only does the filmmaking scream of its time, but like everything from the music selection, like the score, the hair, wardrobe, everything, it's just so of its time, and not in a bad way, but the film's very like time capsule-ish. It feels like everybody's a member of Oasis, you know what I mean? And like it's cool because of that. And then once it started to lose that, I was like, oh, I think I'm actually less interested in this. The sleeker it looks, or the more Hollywood and elevated this is, the less interested I am, because what I liked so much about it was how scrappy it was. Like if you ever hear the stories of like when they shot those scenes of Jim in the streets, right? Like how they had to do that. Yeah. It's like they had like minutes to hold the traffic and like get the shot and get out of there.
I noticed that. I have that kind of eye now, as an older movie watcher, that like there's the shot of Parliament and going down the bridge that crosses the Thames, like next to Parliament. I was like, I was watching. I was like, how the fuck did they get that shot?
How did they do this?
Like,
they had like 10 minutes.
It was like
early in the morning. Ridiculous. Yeah,
and
it was
they
like
literally
super early in the morning.
paid for 10 minutes.
Yeah, early in the morning. I think they did a little bit with their exposures because it was darker than I think it was photographed.
Yep.
And I've recently heard that like the litter laws are such in London that they were like, if a single piece of this trash you're putting in the streets like ends up in the river, you're being fined like X amount of dollars. And so as soon as parts of the street were out of frame in these longer shots, they had like PAs running in and grabbing trash so it didn't blow away.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I was noting while watching that, I was like, yeah, they didn't have a lot of money for like the set stuff, because I was like, this is actually pretty clean for what for what really would have gone down.
This is acceptable.
It's true. It's true. I did read that there's a shot where they're going in. I can't remember where it is. They see off in the distance, they see a city, and the city's like on fire.
It was Birmingham, I think.
Yeah. Okay. So they see that. And in that shot, apparently you can see another vehicle crossing that like went around the police barricades where, they had like paid for X amount of time. And that guy was just like, I'm going to work.
I'm late to work. Yeah.
And just like did his thing. And evidently it's in the shot. I did not see it.
I mean, that's interesting. A story like, okay. Yeah,
sure. Right. I mean, I could see why they would be like, yeah, whatever. We're not painting that out. Like, we don't have the money and whatever.
Yeah.
But it's just another group. But it's stuff like that where I'm like, this was so run and gun guerrilla filmmaking. It's so scrappy and like small budgeted and, whatever. That's such the appeal of that movie to me. And then like with Weeks, it is more elevated. You have all of this. I do have to remind myself that like, oh yeah, Idris Elba, Jeremy Renner, these are not stars yet. At the time they were not stars. So I have to ignore that feeling, but it is more elevated. And then certainly with this one feeling as sleek as it was, I'm like, I feel like we've lost some of this. So now when I hear, okay, we're bringing Cillian Murphy back, I'm like, well, heck, his character worked best because
he didn't know what was going on.
Because he didn't know what was going on, and because the filmmaking framed him in a way that was tight and like weirdly intimate. Mm-hmm. How are you going to square that with what the filmmaking sensibilities seem to be with this one? So then if you put him just in a random standard Hollywood movie that has zombies, is it going to feel the same? I don't know. So anyway, all that to say, there were other reasons why I didn't see the movie, but personal and movie related. But that was certainly one of them where I'm like, maybe like I am interested in where the story goes, but I'm kind of more interested in just reading about it and hearing about it than going and seeing it, because that first movie, like it seems like this is ignoring what I love most about that first movie. And then now hearing from you that even the infection feels different. Yeah, maybe this isn't for me. I don't know.
It does and it doesn't. I don't know. I think it's just that when there's that much time between entries and something, I'm saying this knowing full well how excited I am for Metroid Prime 4. I've been waiting for that game for 18 years. I know I'm going to just be like,
it was good.
It's good. It's a good game. I don't know what I'm expecting or what I'm waiting for, but what I think
that moment from Arrested Development, I don't know what I was expecting.
Yeah, the dead dove.
Yeah.
What I think the impossible situation it was in is that like since Weeks came out, everybody's gone through the phase of zombie oversaturation and then just like complete fatigue with, everybody probably has their point in The Walking Dead that they were like, I'm out. And it's when if the world is just going to be this place where there's survivors, where you get bored of the zombie stuff, so you have to pit them against other survivors because what other crap is there? ad nauseum, like that's not going to be interesting. So like,
oh, but this guy's even badder than the last guy.
So what I think is that like the end game of a zombie outbreak kind of paints itself in the hole, and the exciting thing is going to be the outbreak. Like the problem with zombie films, a genre I love but is filled with 99% trash and noise, is that the most exciting aspect of a world in which zombies have outbroken is the fucking like ignition point. Like, I know that there's fun stories that can be had elsewhere, but everybody's just wishing they could watch that.
Yep.
And every time, and the genre has to pit it after because it's also a very low budget genre.
Yep.
So like, it screws itself. And like, I remember watching like what was the Walking Dead spinoff that started with the outbreak in LA?
Walking Dead?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they totally like cast changed because it sucked. I remember watching that one and being like, see, this is what happens when you try to do an outbreak on a low budget, and that all felt hilariously small and stupid. Yep. And I hated that show so much. And so anyway, I guess what I'm saying is that the longer you go, and it's funny that the movie series is about increasing amounts of time, I think the
years,
less interesting, or at least harder it is to write a compelling story that isn't what you've seen before.
Well, and it is interesting.
Well, what I think they tried to do was try to change what you expected by changing the virus a little bit and treating it differently to kind of like be that difference. And I just don't think it was enough, and it's not really what I was looking for.
Well, I think it makes sense, right? After 30 years, part of the fun of it is like taking a regular person and putting them in this crazy world. After 30 years, everybody's either grown up in it or like they've been in it for so long that this is the new normal. And so they're used to it. They're not learning anything at this point. I mean, not really. I mean, probably there are some twists and turns in this film where the characters learn things, but like whatever. And so, but they're not learning how to survive in this world. They already know that. Don't trust anybody. Whatever. All the rules, all of Jesse Eisenberg's rules of Zombieland apply. But like, there's a so all of that's off the table. So yeah, like for me, if I were writing it, it was like, okay, how is the outbreak mutated, right? Like a virus mutates over time. How is this mutated? What is it doing now? So I like that idea, but not if it feels too disjointed. Like you're saying, if they're behaving differently or they seem smarter or they seem whatever, I don't know if I love that, but I also don't want the virus to mutate enough that they're like, well, now we can breathe underwater or, like whatever it might be. They can fly now.
What I didn't want it to do was like you remember like in Left 4 Dead, you're like, oh, the smoker grabs you with his tongue, right. Or like the witch or anything like that. They don't do like, or like the charger or any of that crap. Yeah. They don't do that, but there is like a smaller amount of that's going on that like just pushed it to a little bit more like, I don't know.
I read about something and yes.
Anyway, people when they initially get bitten still behave like the zombies for before, like it's very quick. They vomit blood, to try to spread it and everything like that. Like, yeah. But within this island that's quarantined for 30 years or whatever, some stuff has changed
Sure. There's
big zombie dong, and that's my one spoiler.
I was going to say, how many penises were in this film?
There's a lot, but there's one monstrous
I've heard about
dong.
this, yes.
It's kind of a character in of itself. Ray Fiennes is just like very uncomfortably close to it in frame for a bit, and it's hilarious.
Nice.
Anyway, weird. Thought I would like it a lot more. Feel now in hindsight feels like a stepping stone to more things, and that isn't really what I wanted from a film because I forgot I read that on the internet.
It feels
I thought it was a one-off until I got out and I was like, oh duh, I forgot I read some shit on Instagram.
There should be t-shirts in the lobby that say, I came here to see 28 years later and all I got was this lousy zombie penis.
You know what's so silly?
Zombie penises.
Not this obviously isn't like Fast and the Furious titling bullshit, but like they could have done 28 year or months. Like,
yeah, right.
If you start a stupid thing, continue with the stupid thing. I know it's been 23 years, so that's closer to 28 years than 28 months, but like, fuck it, do a period thing. So what that would have been like, what, 2002 was the
but the year
outbreak.
wouldn't even matter. It's not like technology has progressed in any real way so as to be meaningful.
I
right?
know, but I'm saying like they could still be like, this is 2004 or 5 or something.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, right.
What would that look like if it stopped in 2002? You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
And I think they still could have done that.
Sure.
And I think they didn't do it because enough spoofs, like what was suggested on, I think I rented it on YouTube. What was suggested on YouTube to watch after that was 28 weeks after, or sorry, 28 months after. And she goes, "Is that the third one?" And I was like, "No, it's fake. It's like an asylum film."
Yeah.
And then I had to explain to what asylum films were. I feel like they just were like, "No, screw it. We want to play with this idea," instead of, actually continuing the naming scheme we did.
Yeah.
And now they're called, like, 28 years later, the Bone
Temple is
Temple,
the next
and
one.
then the third one's unannounced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just they don't do something more exciting or interesting with it, it's going to be a little bit of a bummer. Generally, really competently made film. There's good performances in it. It is by no means bad, but I do not think you need to see it in a theater if you're not wanting to.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Okay.
And zombie movies, I like them when they're kind of crappy. I don't know how to describe that. There's a French one, not to turn this into a big long thing. I think it's like it's a French name, so the English translation is really awkward.
Le zombie. Mon zombie.
Oh, the death eats the night. Dark death eats the night. What is it called?
Sounds like the title of a student film.
The night eats the world.
That sounds even more like
bad.
A student film.
It's like a high school student film.
Okay, so
this is my screenplay for The Night Eats the World.
This is my. How about this? This is my zombie movie recommendation to you. I've seen it twice. I haven't seen it in like 5 or 6 years, but sometimes, especially like foreign language films, because you're not paying attention to what's rolling out over there unless it makes waves. Sometimes you can literally scroll zombie movies and find one and be like, oh, dang, this is actually like pretty dang good. And this one's really good. It's a sole survivor situation. So it's like, Connor, this will pique your interest. It's like Into the Woods with zombies, but not Into the Woods. What is that called?
Oh, Into the Wild.
Into the Wild.
I was like, a
with
musical?
zombies.
It's a musical.
Yeah,
Sorry,
it's amazing.
It's got James Corden in it.
No, Into the Wild, but zombies. But confusingly, he's not in the wild. He's in like a Paris flat building.
Oh, weird. Okay.
So it's like his survival and the things that he's doing, and he has stray interactions with a very small core of characters.
Gotcha. That's interesting.
I liked it a lot. That's my suggestion if you don't want to go see 28 years later.
I remember during COVID when we all watched Train to Busan.
Yeah.
That was so good.
Yeah.
That's a very good one. And then the second one sucked so bad.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I was like, I'm not going to see this.
No.
It's so terrible.
I still haven't seen it either.
They made it an anime. There's like action sequences, like 3D CG cars going down video game looking alleyways. And I'm like, how is this the same director?
Whoa, weird.
And the same writing team? I don't understand what happened.
So weird.
Anyway. Oh yeah? Oh yeah? Yeah.